back, challengers, judges, and fans. We are excited to talk about this brief and see how the challengers fared with recreating a Renee Robyn. First, let's introduce our esteemed panel of judges. Just raise your hands when I call you out. Maggie Hood of Mag Hood Photography, joining us from Fredericton, New Brunswick. From Vancouver, BC, we have Ronald Lee, and Spencer Wynn comes to us from Toronto, Ontario. Thank you all for being here this week as we dive into week 2's brief. Now to announce the subject matter of this week, Renee Robyn. Renee is a force to be reckoned with. Once a talented model, Renee has now turned to the other side of the camera, expressing her style that is easily recognizable and completely her own. She expertly blends fact, fiction, and a little digital alchemy. Renee travels full-time teaching, shooting for commercial and fine art clients, while always growing her remarkable library of striking landscapes the world over. The winner of this week's challenge will receive a 3-pack of Renee's custom stock images. Thank you so much for joining us again this year, Renee. We are grateful for your time and mentorship this week. Just a quick question for you. Can you tell us a bit about your art book and how you feel about the petition that has been started in favor of Team Ryan?
So Team Nathan Fillion and Team Keanu are feeling like, oh my God, we really have to step up, but I don't know if they know how to beat it yet, which is terrifying because what if they do and what does that mean?
Well, we've set the bar a little bit high now, so.
You set it high. You definitely came out swinging. So Team Ryan so far is in the front of this fight. But I am working on an art book and I can't give away all the details yet, but it's a combination of like best of work over the last 14 years and hopefully it won't fucking suck. I don't know. I'm like working on this monster. It's like working on a project that's this big is like sticking your head into like, I mean, oh God, this is such a fucking farm girl term, but it's like sticking your head into like a big bucket of oats and being like, there's so many seeds in here, but there's so many you can't see until you're like, you know, anyways. Bad analogy, but that's the only thing I can think of because it just feels like I'm drowning.
I think it's probably going to be wonderful. And it's just the process right now that seems like it's hard.
I will be happy with if it's just like delightfully mediocre and without any major spelling or grammatical errors. I'm good. Because if there's a spelling error, there's enough grammar Nazis on my social media that they will fucking take pictures of it. Yeah, hope you are going to, yeah. He's gonna take photos of every single spelling error and like that'll be my marketing plan and be like, this fucking idiot. Good thing she's a photographer because she can't write for shit. So anyways, I apologize to anyone who doesn't like my foul mouth because it's a bit of a bit, it's a lot, but yeah, anyways, this book is stressing me out.
Thank you, Renee. This week, our shooters were asked to recreate a Renee Robyn. We want to remind everyone about copyright and the importance of crediting artists when posting their work or using their photographs as reference or inspiration. Besides coming with possible legal ramifications, stealing others' work is frankly a dick move. So thank you, Renee, for granting permission for the shooters to use your images this week. Before we get into mentoring, the challengers had some questions that they wanted to ask the judges. We will direct the question to one of you, but we'd like to hear from all the judges, so just chime in. Screen calibration probably didn't matter as much for this brief, as even if someone's screen was off, they could make a pretty decent match by putting the original and the recreation side by side. When you're delivering images to a client, though, it's important that they see your images the way that you intend them to be seen. Ronald, what are you using to calibrate your screens, and what is the best way to ensure viewers are seeing what you're seeing?
Okay, well, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So you're asking me, how do I calibrate my screen? So is this a technical question you're asking?
Sure, yeah.
Right, if you give me 1 second, I'll show you.
Okay.
I use this. This is a data color. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. Data color X Spider X. I use a lot of these. This is my third one. I had the number 3, 4, and this one.
If you hold
What I
it in
do-
front of your chest, we can see it better.
You can
Yeah,
see it
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I'll open it. And basically, you need to have, as a professional, especially if you're sharing your images, you need to show your, you need to have accurate color. And the only way to know if you have accurate color is to use a screen color calibration device. And print your image with a professional printer and compare your image to your screen and see how well it matches. Because your LCD screen on your camera is a big fat liar. The colors and the contrast and brightness is not accurate. It's only accurate on your editing computer.
We agree. Thank you, Ronald. Do any other judges want to chime in on that question?
It's not really big time.
Sorry, Renee, what was that?
I said I can chime in on that big time because, I mean, so on one hand, yeah, you have to calibrate your stuff. I'm of the opinion that I calibrate my stuff if it's going to print, right? So I'm really, really, really careful about that. But if it's just going on social media, the other way that I'll double check it is on a bunch of different phones and like different devices, because nobody else other than working professionals have their screens calibrated. Like the screen that I have on my laptop that I travel with, I can't even calibrate it to the way that I can my external monitors. So like whatever I'm seeing there looks like crap compared to everything else. So I have 2 ways of saving files. I have like save for print files, which is like calibrated and everything. And then I have save for web, which is stripped down. It's an sRGB, and it's basically averaging out all of my work. So like, especially in the cyans, like if you do a save for print / a save for web, your cyans are really gonna like get averaged out really bad. And there's a bunch of math behind it, or whatever. But anyways, you can't control what everyone else's screens are, because everyone else's screens 99.8% of times are absolutely garbage. So you'll never know. So you just like, whenever I'm exporting for web anyways, I try to make it as average as possible so that I will look the most averagely okay on as many screens as possible. And then if it's going to print and it's going to a magazine, or it's going to get printed on like some big billboard, then I'm really careful and I'll actually do test prints first with a professional printer on the type of paper that they think they're going to print it on, if I'm like really, really worried about it. But yeah, anyways, that's like the Sunday school fastest version possible, because I know Spencer was going to talk something too and it got really loud.
Thank you, Renee. Spencer?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as, you know, I use this, but that's really just for calibrating my monitor in case I have the same client and I have to deliver the same sorts of images, so that, you know, in a month or so, they still look similar. But one of the things I think is really important is to have a predictable lighting environment. I have a space here that the calibration takes into account, and it does not have any direct daylight coming in, so you don't get a temperature change from the morning to the noon to the afternoon. And I think that's really important. But as Renee said, you know, if it's just going online, everybody's screen is different. So you just have to pretty much average that out. But if it is going specifically for print, then yeah, you've got to pay a lot more attention to that. But I think what's really important is to have a predictable environment that doesn't change throughout the day.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to chime in? Maggie?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much the same as Renee. I mean, I think Ronald's gonna like twinge when I say this, but I've never calibrated a monitor. And I'm the same, like I'll check it on like my phone just to see what it looks like and that kind of thing. And I'm the same too, if I'm gonna print something, I'll do some test prints before it goes out to the client, that kind of thing. But for the most part, I mean, I've never really had any issues. And yeah, so yeah, I've never actually calibrated anything.
All right, thank you. This one is specifically for Renee, but anybody is welcome to answer. Renee, you shoot pretty much every aspect of your digital creations. So how do you keep your images sorted, cataloged, and stored?
No one's gonna like the answer to this terribly. Um, so basically what I do is I have basically like a tree, like a folder file thing that is inspired by ADHD and not enough sleep. So it starts off with stock, which is where all my stock goes. So everything that can be attached to an image, that's like the main folder. And I have a folder called travel, and travel is where all the like the background elements are of when I went somewhere. So there's like Hawaii and the year that I went, and that's it. And then there's Scotland, the year that I went, and then the year that I went the next time, and that's it. And then there's like, so more, so those are like when I do big trips, right? But then if there's smaller ones where like, let's say I'm in like central UK for a while, and I'm like, okay, so I spent the day at this ruin site, therefore that's one location. I spent the day at this ruin site, therefore that's another location. It's basically based on how many hours I spent in a car on that day is like a location. I just did Iceland in the fall, and so Iceland was 9 days. And so I just have Iceland day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, which means now that I'm getting closer to 40 and my memory kind of isn't as good after a few concussions and car crashes, that I'm sitting here going like, I wonder if I have, and then I spend an hour scanning. So it's really bad. I don't use Lightroom for cataloging. I have no keywording. I have no nothing. So don't be me.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Mine is really simple. I don't get as detailed as Renee. I don't put dates on because dates to me are irrelevant, but the location is relevant. So if I'm in one place for a while, I will break it down to skies, night, architecture, that sort of thing. So if it was Eastern Turkey and I wanted to get you know, a building, all I would do is go to Turkey, architecture, and then go through photo mechanic and just zip through until I find it.
That's clever. Yeah, I basically for skies, I just have a big folder that's just skies.
Yeah.
And then some of it's broken down to like sky textures, sky sunlight, sunsets, sky sunrises, but mostly it's just skies. And then there's snow, and then there's, and then I have the date that it was shot, because the date for me anyways is a keyword on what kind of weather was that. So it's like, you know, like Montreal snow, like, you know, 2010. And I'm like, oh yeah, there was a really big storm that year, but the snowflakes had this really nice shape, and those are the kind of shapes I'm going for. Whereas like snowstorm Edmonton 2021 was like, oh yeah, I just did that in the front yard with like a piece of black paper, and like, so it's like a different look of snow. That's how I organize it, but the more concussions I get, that's going to fail too.
I think this just proves that every photographer will have their own way of cataloging their work, because even mine is way different from both of yours.
Tell me, I want to hear your version.
Oh, maybe another time, because we got to keep things a little bit, you know, we want to get you out of here on time. Okay, Spencer, some of the challengers have noticed that they're hitting the brief but coming up short on the power score. Something as simple as needing a lens calibrated could throw an entire shoot off. When you're looking at your own images, how do you identify and correct technical deficiencies?
That's a good one. Basically, I start at the corners really and the edges, and just make sure that that the composition is right, and then really just take a quick zoom in at 100%, no larger than that, no deeper than that, just to make sure that the key areas are sharp. If it's background information, it's not that important to me, because I really want people to focus on what's important. So that's got to be sharp, and it's got to be nice and bright and contrasty without being, you know, blown out. Really, that's really about it. Obviously, getting it right in camera is the most important thing, and just a little bit of that saves you in post doing all sorts of corrections and pushing the file a bit too far.
Thank you. Maggie, closely related to Spencer's question, your clients essentially become your judges. So when you're culling images, what criteria are you using and why?
I mean, there's a multitude of things that I look for. Like, again, the first thing I look for, I mean, there's that balance too when you're working with clients to, is it emotion or is it technical? I mean, a great image has both, right? But sometimes you get going through and you see one that maybe isn't completely sharp, but the emotion in the moment is there, and I'll still deliver that. As long as it's not like horribly out of focus or something. But if it missed focus just a little bit, that one's still going to my clients. But in terms of like from a technical standpoint, I'm evaluating light, I'm evaluating how sharp it is. I mean, composition, but then overall it's the mood. And also like how, honestly, how the client looks at it. Like if I feel that they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, I look really great in that image, I mean, that's going to make them feel good about themselves, then that's what I'm looking for as well.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, Hope, let's get started with slide number 1, please. The first slide is Renee's work so that you guys have an idea of what our challengers were recreating this week. Like apprenticing under a master to learn technique, the challengers were tasked with deconstructing one of Renee Robyn's images and getting as close as they could to recreating the original. Not be inspired by it, just straight up do a ripoff. While this challenge was not a composite challenge, the shooters were welcome to give it a try. Regardless of the approach, it was more important to pay close attention to details like the direction of light, tone, composition, and so forth. Tonight, we will see who came the closest to recreating a Renee Robyn. All right, so just a quick reminder that due to time constraints, we will only be looking at the top 3 and the bottom 3 until we have fewer than 6 shooters. Challengers, if your name is called next, you are safe and you move on to the next match. Slide number 2 is a full image of all of the challengers' work. So in 8th place, we have Shauna. 7th place, we have Matt. 6th place, we have Bonnie. 5th place, Martha, and in 4th place, we have Stacy. Now let's see who this week's sharpshooter is, who needs practice, and who will be leading the firing line. The judges had a few questions for the shooters, so everyone will be getting the same question. Why did you pick the image that you did? How did you go about deconstructing it? How did you make it work? And what did you learn, either as a skill or about yourself as a photographer this week? So in no particular order, let's get started. Next slide. Nikki Lynn, you decided to really stretch yourself this week because compositing is something that you've been interested in for a while. Why did you pick the broom image? And how did you go about deconstructing it? And what was your biggest challenges in recreating it?
I picked the broom image because exactly that. I wanted to try it. I wanted to try the composite. I wanted to try the Photoshop. And my son was the spitting image of this guy with the beard and the glasses, and he agreed to do this. And then a couple of days before the shoot, he got COVID and ended up stuck in his house and couldn't do it. I don't have a studio. Like, I mean, I have lights and stuff, but I don't have a setup. So I wasn't about to just change my route. And so I thought, well, I'm going to do this myself. So I got dressed up and I thought that I would be able to kind of do this outside. So I tried that, but it was so cold. So the next thing I had to do was do this in my living room. So I had stuck my camera on continuous timer and jumped around literally for thousands of pictures. Oh my goodness, it was insane. So I feel like I spent a really lot of time on this. The background, I know that the background is not tack sharp and it's not the best, but I used my own, and I didn't want to like use somebody else's images and use somebody, I just didn't want to use iStock photo. So I just used mine, thinking that, you know, it would kind of show what I was trying to do there with the ledge. But I found that because I don't know Photoshop, it was just way too many hours spent trying to get that right. And you know, I got my husband made the broom, and that was really fun doing that, but I couldn't get the broom to look as it actually does. I couldn't like get it photoshopped properly. It would take so many of the sticks away, so it doesn't look sharp. And I was just spending too much time on it. I like 2 straight days of just editing. So yes, I am, you know, as much as I love that whole composite and Renee's style and all this stuff, I think what I've learned is I'm not sure if this is really for me. I don't know. I had a really hard time with this one, but I am proud of it because it's my very first time accomplishing Photoshop and getting myself to fly with like, I don't know, with a stick broom. So
I think you did a pretty good job for your first try on a composite.
Yeah.
I myself probably wouldn't have done as good because I don't do composites either.
And the background, like the sky, I didn't put a new sky in. That was like, if I don't know if they've seen the original, my sky was just washed out. It was a picture I took years ago, but I just tried to get the texture and the color back in the sky. I didn't put an overlay in there. I used the actual sky that was there and just tried to tweak the colors as much as I could. Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki Lynn. Renee, both this week and last week, comments on Nikki Lynn's images mentioned subjects looking like they were placed on top of a background. Last week, it was actual items shot at high resolution on a printed drop. And this week, it was done with a digital backdrop. How do you deal with the variable resolution when compositing?
Well, I mean, in this case, it's not really a question of variable resolution. She shot her own backdrop. In this case, what's causing it to look a little bit stickered on is if you're looking at the contrast levels in the image, so the contrast levels between you and the contrast in your background choice, they're not quite the same with your color temperatures. They're not really harmonious that way, and that's where that kind of like sticker effect is coming from. But I mean, you're masking, you did a really good job because cutting out all those branches totally sucks. It's absolutely very, very, very difficult. So yeah, I mean, as far as like when you're dealing with resolution inconsistencies, I mean, I just try to match it up as close as possible. That's one of the first things I'll look for when I'm looking for an appropriate backdrop is does my resolution match up? And if it doesn't, even if that background is perfect, I won't use it. Like I'll go for something that's not quite as perfect just to make sure the resolution matches. And because I can composite and add all kinds of things in and take all kinds of things away, but if the resolution doesn't match up, you can't really fix that.
All right, thank you, Renee. Maggie, both you and Ronald commented on the lighting on in this image being a little flat. Can you explain what that means and offer some tips on how to avoid it?
So for me, one of the biggest things I look for with lighting is direction. So when I see an image, I like to be able to tell directly where the light is coming from. So the biggest way to do that is to look for highlights and to look for shadows. So flat lighting is just kind of like an even, it doesn't really bring emphasis to, you know, like for example, if you had the light kind of out in front of the subject, it would have hit like the bridge of the nose and kind of outlined a little bit, and you would have seen a little bit of shadow on the cheeks, right? This one just felt a little bit flat in the sense that everything was evenly lit with no shadows, and it just didn't really give a punchy feeling to me like I would have liked to have seen. But yeah, did that answer the question?
So did you say how you would avoid that?
I mean, putting some light with direction a little bit and having a little bit of shadow. Like that's, I guess Ronald might have felt differently than and seen it differently than what I'm saying. But I mean, for me, I like to see a little bit of shadow and a little bit of definition and a little bit of character in the lighting itself.
Thank you. Okay, hope next slide, please. This is Jean-Francois. You were particularly excited about this week's challenge because you are passionate about compositing. If we count correctly, there were at least 7 or 8 images used to build this image. So Jean-Francois, what drew you to this image and how did you go about deconstructing it? Spencer wants to know where you got the suit of armor from and what did you learn this week, either as a skill or about yourself?
The easiest question is where I got the suit. So it's his suit, actually. That's my son-in-law. And he's doing those crazy kind of things like GNs. And yeah, that was very easy. That was the easy part. The hard part was the background. The background, I had no idea what to do with it. And so I had to find many pictures, different pictures, to try to get as close as possible as the Renee's background.
I do have to say that when I first looked at the image, I thought it was almost the same background, and I had to look very closely to notice that it was different. But you did a good job, in my opinion.
Thank you.
So what did you learn this week about yourself as a photographer, or a new skill, perhaps?
Nothing is easy. I thought it would be easy, but I had to put a lot of work to recreate this. It's not like using our own background. It has to be copied. So it involves a lot of work, really.
Thank you, Jean-Francois.
You're welcome.
Ronald, for this brief, and you mentioned in your notes that the color tint on the model did not quite match the color tint of the background. Can you clarify what you meant by that and how or why it caught your eye?
Sure. First, I thought it was a very good result, according to the objective of the photo, to do something similar to what Renee did. Overall, I liked the image. Looking closer to it, I did notice that the color, the tint on the model and the armor didn't quite match the color of the scene around and behind him. If you could do something that will match the color, meaning, suppose there was an actual light source, what would the color temperature and tint be on the model as well as the background? That would make it blend a lot cleaner, closer.
Awesome, thank you. Renee, your images have often been described as having an ethereal quality. Do you have a go-to lighting recipe for creating that ethereal look? And what tools would you use in post to create softer lighting when detailing with harsh light, such as full sun or in a small space where low flash, a diffuser is still inadequate?
So if you're trying to create like soft wraparound light, bounce it off the walls, bounce it off the ceiling. That's the biggest thing. I mean, I do that still to this day. Like all the time, I bounce light off of walls for fill light or to add like directional light. So like, for example, with the previous image with the comment about flat lighting, a really nice way to get nice lighting like that is to just like pop it off the ceiling and then have like reflectors or something to fill in the shadow underneath. So yeah, bouncing off, especially in tight spaces, bouncing light is everything in my opinion. I know there was more to that question, but I have a goldfish brain, so I apologize if you can refresh me.
sorry, so what tools would you use in
Oh,
post?
right, color grading, right. Yeah, so in this case, most of my color grading I do these days is done in Adobe Camera Raw. So I will do all my base compositing and everything and get it as close to as I want. You know, same with like using curves and color balance and like clipping things to layers to like get it the environment to look the way I want it to. But then to do the overall color grade, I go into Adobe Camera Raw. So I merge everything into a single layer up on top. And I know I'm going fast and I apologize, but I merge everything up into a layer on top and then I go into ACR, which is Command Shift A or Control Shift A for PC and Mac users. And then from there, I push sliders around like a freaking madman. I'm just like, better, worse, better, worse. And then I'm like, okay, that's not too bad. Next slide, better, worse, next slide, better, better, worse, worse. And then like, I'll save that and then I'll go back and then I'll just turn that layer off, merge everything up, go into another layer of ACR, and then I'll make another one. And then after I'm done pushing sliders on that, I like look at my layers and I'm like, which one's better? On, off, on, off, on, off. So yeah, I'm not, it's well, with personal work, with professional, like with client work, it's like methodical, but personal work like this, I just let the squirrel brain go fucking crazy. And I just chase the little red dot around this image. And I'm just like, where is this going? Where do I want it to go? Because I mean, that's the whole point of doing personal work, is to like have fun with it and push sliders and like, you know, push it around until it sucks less. So yeah, with my personal work, I'm not serious or methodical at all because I want to see where the monkey brain is going to take me.
Thank you, Renee. Next slide, Hope. This is Virginia's. So what factors played into you picking this image, Virginia? And how did you deconstruct it?
Well, it gave me Outlander vibes, so I had to do it. Yeah, honestly, and it just spoke to me. Like as soon as I saw that image, I was like, I have to do that one. And like I hummed and hawed for about 2 hours and I just kept going back to that one. So it was calling to me. And I am very fortunate. I have to give shout out to a couple people who helped me, if that's okay.
Sure.
My friend Krista is a makeup artist, and Kimberly Van Babel, she is a tradesperson in Edmonton actually, and Krista knew her and I was like, do you know a redhead with long hair? She's like, I got exactly the person. And like they were all like full steam ahead with me, so it was definitely a team effort. And we were all like super stoked to work on this. And I played at thrift stores and ripped apart kilts and convinced them to let me buy fluff off a coat, and yeah, and not the coat. I was very excited.
So what did you learn about your, did you learn anything new skill-wise or about yourself as a photographer this week?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of compositing. Like I feel like it's been very daunting. So figuring out how to make the background was super fun, and like the color grading, I think I struggle with a bit. So I spent a lot of time trying to get everything perfect to her image. So I think I definitely learned a lot with the color grading, and then watching your videos on Creative Live, like I learned a lot of stuff, like just even figuring out like how much noise images have and trying to match that. And yeah, I found that super, super helpful, and like the perspective. So yeah, and deconstructing it, I just zoomed super close into her eyeball, and I was like, okay, I know exactly the light I need. I'm like, I don't have exactly everything I need, but I think I can fake it. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Virginia.
Yeah.
Renee, the images you selected intentionally covered a range of complexity. Several of the challengers picked this image as they felt it would be the easiest, given the resources they had on hand. In Virginia's image, other than not having the nail polish spot on, you felt this was an almost perfect replication. Do you think Virginia underestimated herself and played it too safe this week? And how do you know it's time to up your game?
I mean, that's like a really personal, like a personal decision. I mean, the fact that just because you get something almost perfect doesn't mean that you're too good for that level. It just means that you finally have got yourself to a point where you're just like, hey, look, I got the thing and I got it like 98% of the way there. Like, check, like this, like that doesn't mean that you're not challenging yourself, because trying to recreate something identically is just fucking hard. I mean, like, it just is what it is. Like, it's just difficult. And so, like, without seeing other versions of the work that she's made, I mean, whenever you decide, I find for me, and I can only speak for myself, but whenever I'm ready to like go to the next level, I start to feel itchy creatively. I start looking at my work and it makes me uncomfortable because it's not where I want it to be. And I'm like, well, what do I mean where I don't want it? Like, I don't know where I want it to be. And it's because my taste is now better than my work, which means I'm ready to go to the next thing. And so if that's what you're feeling, if you're feeling itchy, you know, and you're looking at your work and you're just like, you know, like, yeah, this is good, but like, that's where I want to be. That never, hopefully, will ever go away for you, because I am there right now and I have some work that I really want to do and I can't. So it's time to learn. So yeah, I mean, could you have probably nailed something else? 100%, but is there anything wrong with nailing what you did? No, of course not.
Thanks, Renee. Spencer. Unlike photographs, which capture whatever light is present, painters must learn to see light in order to paint it. You mentioned that the Rembrandt lighting in this photo is very well done. As a general question about lighting, what tips would you offer when training yourself to look at a scene and see the light?
Well, the one thing that I really enjoyed about this particular image is that the lighting was not hot. It was very controlled. Her forehead and the top of her hand, which is directly pointing to the light, you know, it is well controlled. So, so it's not too contrasty. I really like the directions. She's got a beautiful dark shadow sort of on this side of her nose, creating that beautiful Rembrandt look. And, you know, Renee talked about the directionality of the light. And I think that's really, really important so that we understand where the light's coming from. And it's working really, really well here. She's looking into the light. We've got a nice little bit of light coming in to fill in the back of the garment that she's wearing on her back, so it doesn't fall off too far. And that directional side light just really adds a lot of texture and depth to the image, which is really, really nice. The eye, I just felt that the eyes were just a little bit too bright. I wanted to have something a little bit more subtle. But overall, I mean, I think the hair was handled beautifully, and it doesn't look pasted onto the background because the tonal range is really harmonious. The one thing that I just had a little bit of a difficulty with was the background to the right of the body is introducing a bit of a blue. It's a little bit flat as opposed to the left side. If that bluish sort of tone were removed or deepened somewhat, then it would just be marvelous. But it's really, really beautifully done.
Thank you, Spencer. Hope, can you go to the next slide, please? Yes. Oh, you forgot to do that one. Sky, you've only recently begun learning Lightroom and Photoshop. So this week's challenge must have given you a minor heart attack. Why did you pick this image as the one that you would like to recreate? How did you deconstruct it? And what did you learn this week?
My kid is crying right now, but so I like what it was said earlier. I thought this one would be the easiest one, which it wasn't, especially in natural light. That really kicked my butt. I don't have a studio, and I found if I did shoot indoors, manipulating light would have been a lot easier for this image. What was sorry? What was the other question?
What did you learn this week did you learn any new skills this week or anything about yourself as a photographer?
I learned how to use Photoshop a lot more than what I normally use it for. And how to add a background on something that does not look the exact same as this background.
Thank you, Sky. Hope you can put the next slide up. Ronald, in your critique, you said this image had a lovely watercolor quality. Unfortunately, like last week, Sky's post-processing was a little heavy-handed. This is a common pitfall for many photographers when learning the power of digital photo manipulation. What mistakes did you make when you were first learning how to post-process photos? Yeah.
So when I started, I did a lot of Photoshop destructively. That means instead of using layers and masking, I just used a paintbrush on the image and using the eraser tool to erase pixels. And that was when I was messing around trying to figure out how to use it right in the beginning. Photoshop is one of those tools that is a valuable tool for all image makers. And there's a learning curve, but it's worth spending time to, the further you get in Photoshop, the better. And it's a big program. No one knows everything about Photoshop because it can do so many things.
Yeah, I've heard that most photographers are only using about 10% of the actual power of Photoshop. So Ronald, did someone have to point it out to you when you were starting out, or did you figure it out on your own?
I figured it out on my own over a longer period of time than it should have, because maybe I was a little lazy, or, basically, the one thing that took me a while was masking, mostly because I never really focused. Like I would half learn it. But when I spend an hour actually figuring out what's masking about, I picked it up right away. So there's a lot of, I guess you can say, artist procrastination when you're trying to, if it seems too hard to do, you put it off until you have to do it. But in the end, I learned it on my own. But I would say today, if I was to start again, it would be a combination of learning on your own, as well as looking at YouTube channels, finding experts and masters like Renee and many other people who are really good at it, and picking whatever you can. There's no shame in asking for help and learning from others.
That's absolutely true. Thank you, Ronald. Renee, Sky's image was the only one that appeared to use natural lighting, which ended up with a lot of time being spent fixing it in post. Using window light may have gotten her closer to achieving a similar lighting effect. But are there any other hacks you know of that Sky could employ for controlling or manipulating natural light?
Yeah, so there's actually a bunch of different techniques. So you can actually, for this kind of lighting, one way that's actually really fun to replicate this is if you're shooting outside and you don't have lights, go outside on a sunny day and hang a big white sheet over top of your model. So have your model standing underneath it, and basically just move them back and forth. You probably have to hang a backdrop behind them to do like a nicer extraction, like for ease of cutting out, so you don't have like trees and whatever else. So but anyways, just by hanging like a big white bed sheet outside and then walk your model back and forth and watch how the light changes on their face, and as the light changes, as it moves around clouds and whatever else. But this to recreate this is best done on a sunny day with a bed sheet, and then just like walk them around and then move your camera around to see how the light is impacting their face. It's actually a really nice, easy way to change really nasty, harsh sunlight into really beautiful portrait light without anything. It's actually one of the things that I teach in one of the workshops that we do here. If on a day where we have no choice and it's just like nasty sunny, I'm like, all right, bed sheet time. And we just grab 4 people and we hang a bed sheet and we put the sun behind them. And then like, we'll just move around underneath and like photograph the sun, whether like the sun facing them or behind them or beside them, but underneath the bed sheet, because it changes how the light interacts with the face. And it's actually like a super nice way to get great portrait light.
Thank you, Renee.
No worries.
Oh.
It wasn't the only one that was natural light that I noticed, but this was the one where I was like, oh, this would have been so great if there was like, if you have to shoot it outside, just go under a bed sheet, you'll be fine.
Thanks, Renee. Hope, next slide, please. Kayla, you trolled the judges a bit this week by actually using the same model Renee did for the original shot. Renee knew, but you had Maggie convinced. You even added the tattoos in post. Nicely played. So what attracted you to this image? Actually, I know the answer to that question. And how did you go about deconstructing it? And what did you learn this week?
So I chose this image just because I absolutely love color. Anything with color is going to stand out to me the most. So of course, in like this spread, it definitely stood out to me. So how did I deconstruct this one? So there was a few things that I did. Is I had looked at the catch lights in her eyes to try to find out the placing of the 2 lights. And then also, if you looked at the highlight on the original photo on the glasses, it gave away kind of the shape of the modifier as well. So I did try to figure that out too. Then I also just looked at the harshness of the transition from like the 2 tones to see kind of like how far close they were to the model. Yeah. The biggest challenges I would say was I left it to last minute on Saturday to shoot, on Saturday night, like always. And then my computer just decided to beach ball the whole time anytime I tried to use a brush. So I couldn't really do masking properly because I'd go to refine edges and it would just shut down. So that was a big challenge. The other one was the lighting in Renee's photo is more above, and I only have a light stand that's like this. I don't have like a nice C stand, so that was another challenge that I faced.
In the
Thank you.
future, just have your model go on their knees if you need them to. If you need the light.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I just know this was shot so low, like I had to shoot up at her to get the same angles. So I don't know how.
You could do it.
Maybe it would have been putting her up on something and then me going down would have been the way to do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Renee, you and the other judges complimented Kayla on how closely she matched the pose this week, but like several other challengers this week, noted issues with masking. Is there some kind of magic sauce you know for improving masking skills?
Well, in this case, in my image, there was no masking. Everything in that image is in camera. I use a smoke machine. So that makes it easier for sure. It actually changes the quality of the light also. This original image was shot with 3 colors of lights, not 2. Which also changes it just a little bit, but you did a really good job matching it in post-production. But as far as like, you know, super quick fixes with masking, especially when you're dealing with chains and braids and everything, it just sucks, dude. You're just gonna be there for a while and that's kind of it. It just totally bites, which is why I tried to avoid super long braided hair for every single photo shoot, like these types of braids. Because if I'm masking it out, it's going to take a while. The only thing that you can do to improve masking time is if you know that you're going to be doing an extraction. Because basically when you're doing composites, there's 2 things to worry about. There's matching your environment luminance, and then there's making it easy for extraction. And they usually fight. They're not always the same, but usually they fight each other. So if you want to do something for a quick extraction, let's say you're photographing a blonde, right? And they're like flipping their hair and the extraction has to be really good. Photograph them on a black background. That hair will pop out super fast with the automatic masking tools. But your environment luminance that you're masking, that you're putting them into, unless you're putting them into like a darker environment, it's going to suck a lot of light out of that image. So the bounce light, the quality is going to be different. So you have to fix that in post. Sometimes that's easier than doing the extraction. So in this case here with her, if you were going to cut her like straight out, photographing her on like that hair though is so, in this situation, it just sucks. It's going to suck. But photographing it on a contrasting background will make your masking faster using the automated tools and then refining it by hand. But yeah, on the flip side, if you're trying to match your environment luminance, masking sucks.
Thanks, Renee. Spencer, in your comments, you mentioned Kayla could blend the colors better by moving the teal light and flagging flagging off the overspill. For those who don't have loads of experience with controlled light or gels, that sounds like a lot of gibberish. Could you briefly explain what that means and discuss what kinds of equipment and materials you'd need?
Well, I'm not sure what she was using for modifiers or not, but it's really actually quite a simple fix. When I'm looking at Renee's, the model has a really nice rounded arm, and there's a really nice blend between the warm or the orange and the teal color. Whereas it's a bit harsh in this version, where the orange pretty much, you know, it's a pretty abrupt change from orange to teal. So rather than placing the lights at such an angle, I probably, you know, I think the orange is fine. Maybe bring the blue, maybe bring that teal light a little bit more forward, so that there is a little bit more of a blend, and it'll just naturally kind of blend together. And then I do see that there's a bit of teal in the arm, the bent arm, and you know, you could just put a piece of black foam core or something there just to cut out some of the teal. That's, you know, even holding a piece of foam core there just to stop the light from going onto the arm. Although I do see it here on Renee's as well, and I know that this is, you know, you're supposed to be copying it, so that's fine. But that just rounding out that, or softening that transition from the orange to the teal, I think if you just swung the light, basically just swung it around a little bit more towards her, pointing at her, it may just soften that transition a little bit. I think it was a really, really well done piece.
Thank you, Spencer. We're going to move on to our last one right now. I know that we are cutting it really close, Renee, so I'm going to move your question to
it's okay. Like, worst case, I mean, ironically, we just got an email saying that power is going out in the area, so we might get emergency cut off anyways. But worst case, if we do find that we're going over, I just had like a quick chat with him, and I'll just like briefly mute myself and just like haul my laptop into the kitchen, and then I'll just like stream it. Like, I'll run Wi-Fi off my phone. So
Okay.
Worst case, if we're going over, I will just like put you guys on pause for like 5 minutes while I rip fucking cables out of this thing and like run into the other room. So.
Okay. Okay, so thank you, Hope, for putting up the next slide. Joey, this wasn't a compositing challenge, but you specifically chose this image to push yourself. According to Renee, you picked the hardest image to recreate and did an admirable job of getting the elements, tone, and mood right. Well done. So what about this image inspired you to tackle it? How did you go about deconstructing it this week? And what did you learn about yourself or a skill this week?
So I actually chose two. I chose the one that I felt was going to be the easiest for me to replicate and the hardest, and I shot both. And because of timing, I started editing the one that was hardest, and then I just became obsessed and didn't have time to edit the other one at all. So this one, sorry, what was the second part of the question? It was what challenges?
No, what did you do?
What did I learn?
What did you do? How did you deconstruct this image, and what did you struggle with it?
Okay, so when I deconstructed it, I was looking at the textures in the clouds and the background, the sea, the ground, and all of the different textures in Renee's. And the image that I used was one that I had taken in the fall on a trip. And so I needed to kind of adjust those to make it fit the same sort of mood. The model that I used was 6'7", and so one of the challenges that I had was that the dress was not as big and flowy because the model was much taller than what the dress was built for. So deconstructing Renee's image, there is a lot more movement in the fabric, and as well in the hair, which the model was wearing a wig. So it just doesn't have that same sort of flowiness that that natural hair has, or at least this particular wig didn't. And the dress again was fairly short on them. So what I learned was using those composites and as well overlays, which I had also never used before. The masking of certain aspects was very challenging, and I probably could have played around with this for another couple of weeks and still not been exactly where I wanted. But yeah, I think for a first go that I did, you know, the best that I could. So I am quite proud of this one. I know it's not you know, exactly the right angles and everything, but I was really trying to go for the lighting and the textures.
Awesome, thank you. Renee, are you good?
Yeah, like I said, I'm just like getting ready to just like rip cables and run to the other room, but I still have 2 minutes before I will just like mute you, scamper, and then like you'll see like you'll see how tired I am.
Okay. So I'm going to ask Maggie a question, and then that'll give you some time to get to another room then. Okay.
We're going to do that then. Yeah, I will just,
okay.
Just drinking beer. That's not fair.
You can drink beer too. Nobody's stopping you.
You don't want me on here hopped up.
Okay, we'll see you in a couple minutes then. Maggie, with any critique, you have to deconstruct an image to identify what's working and what isn't. And even though you confess you don't do composites, but like the other judges noticed the position of the girl in comparison to the ocean, the painterly quality of the background, issues with the masking. If you'd been given this challenge, would you have asked for a second set of eyes to deconstruct the image you had created before submitting, and why or why not?
So you mean like after I finished, would I have asked somebody to take a peek at it before I submitted it and gotten their advice?
Yes.
I mean, it's not a bad idea for a competition. I guess that's a good idea. But I always, in terms of my work, I think you can take other people's, and same with everything that I say and anything any of the other judges say, take everything with a grain of salt, because we're all looking at this work from our own experiences, our own eyes, our own skill set. So while I might say one thing, it's just like, for example, in the first week when Two Man Studios looked at an image and they were like, okay, that looks kind of pornographic. I looked at it, I didn't see anything like my mind didn't go there at all. So everybody looks at an image from a different perspective. So you have to be cautious when asking for advice or critiques from other people and take them with a grain of salt. And so I guess, yeah, it's a good idea to check with others. But again, take everything with a grain of salt and follow your gut and your instinct first.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm not sure if Renee is back yet. So does Ronald or Spencer, do you have anything that you'd like to say on this image?
Overall, I thought it came together quite well, actually. There were a lot of technical errors, but as an overall, for me, it works. And I wasn't sure if the background was a painting or an image that was processed. But at any rate, yeah, I liked it.
Thank you.
I really like the background image. I don't know if that's Oregon or if it's off the coast of Australia, but it's a beautiful image to use. The waves work really, really well. They're detailed, they're interesting. And then the grass lacks that kind of same impact. The grass is very quiet. So it doesn't carry through. And I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but the hair, yes, as identified earlier, it's not flowing as much. But I think that having someone there with a fan, when I shoot these sorts of things, a good fan will really help to give you that motion to the hair and to the garment here as well, to give you that flow, which you know is there because you see the waves, you know that it's windy, you expect the hair to be going in the same direction. I think a fan is really, really important when you're shooting these sorts of things. But
I don't know if you can see, but in the behind the scenes in the original, you can see just behind the ring light, my assistant who was there to help me out, she's actually using a Rubbermaid lid to fan. So we're trying to get more of the motion in there. It's a little bit small, but
is she over to the left?
Yeah, to the left, just behind the ring light, you can just see a bit of the
okay,
of the Rubbermaid. Yeah,
I see something.
We were trying.
I would have put her on the right though, so that the hair is flowing to behind her. But I mean that's. But I'm glad that I'm really glad that you were thinking that term though. But I mean it does, as was mentioned before, it really does look like a painting. It has a very nice painterly look.
Thank you, Spencer. Renee.
Yeah, we're good now. We have like another however long we need, so we're good.
Okay, awesome.
Until the power goes up.
So we're close to being done tonight.
All good.
So let's talk about lighting subjects to use in composites. Your subject needs to be adequately lit to pop from the background so it doesn't look muddy and flat. But not so well lit, it looks like it's been pasted into the photo. What does the creative process look like for you? Do you use do you light the model to match the digital backdrop? Or match the backdrop to the lighting on the model? Or is it some of both?
It depends on the background that I'm putting in on somebody. So one of the types of photography that I really love that I absolutely hate doing is strobe photography on location. Like I love the look of lighting on location big time, but I absolutely hate shooting lighting on location. I hate the bugs, I hate the wind, and I hate worrying about people stealing my stuff and or it falling over and getting broken. And I just don't like people watching me shoot. So there's like a conundrum there. So when I shoot an image like this, right, I make it look like it's been lit artificially a little bit, but not too strong, because I want it to look like it was shot with some gentle lighting on location. But that's because the background that I'm putting my subject into doesn't have what I call lighting with personality. So if this had been like a sunset, like a super bluebird sky day and a sunset and like, you know, pink clouds and stuff, I guess it's not a bluebird sky day, but you know what I mean? But so if my background that I was putting them into had a ton of personality in lighting, and I had like the lighting was like a big part of that image, then this type of lighting doesn't work, because then you have to light for the environment. But in a situation like this, where the lighting in, you know, the background piece that I put together is, you know, it's very flat, it's very neutral, it's very whatever. Yeah, you can light that, but then what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to do like, see what's going on with my face right now with this top-down lighting. You have to light the same top-down. It's not always very flattering. So what I do is I create the top-down lighting, but then I add fill, in which case to like kind of fill that in, but also give it a little bit more shape. So you have to analyze whatever you're going to choose. You have to analyze the background that you're going to put them into and either match it or complement it. Does that make sense?
It does.
My cat has the zoomies, so I'm sorry. She can get in here.
That's all right. So that's the end of the critiques. If any judges would like to comment on any of the images that were shown tonight, just raise your hand or talk and we'll let you have a moment.
There's two that I would love to talk on if that's possible.
Please do.
So one of the ones that I thought was really, really great was the sloth. Because somebody actually did, like, they understood the assignment. Which is like recreate an image, but like with what you have like available to you. And if you're stuck at home, which a lot of people around this country right now are, like, yes, make it with a sloth, like do the things, like that was awesome. So whoever made that one, I don't know if you're feeling like weird about it or not, but please don't, because that was fucking great.
That was Shauna that shot that one.
Sorry?
That was Shauna that shot that one.
Oh, nice work, Shauna. Yeah, that was really good. I mean, they were, like, to be fair, they were all fucking awesome. I mean, I had such a hard time like picking them. I was just like, ugh. But the other one that I was extremely impressed with was the other broom shot. Like, so when I was looking through the thumbnails, when I saw them, I thought that one, someone had just cut out Curtis's face and put a different face on it. And I was like, sneaky fuckers, I said we could use Photoshop, but I didn't say you could use my image. And then I like zoomed in on it and I was like, oh, that's really good. That's like right down to like the curvature of the scarf and like the blurry foot, and like the lighting was like chef's kiss. I thought that one was just like really, really, really well done, especially because like you can see how many pieces you're putting together and like right down to the expression. Like I was super impressed. So that doesn't happen to me very often. We're like on a thumbnail, I'm like, that's mine. And then to zoom in and realize it's not, I was like, all right, points. So just had to like give that one a shout out here, because yeah, I thought that was like, I was very surprised.
Nikki's, I believe. Nikki, that was yours?
No, that one was Stacy's.
Stacy's. Sorry, Stacy's.
Yeah.
Well, good job, Stacey.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to the bottom three. Hope, if you want to bring up that slide for me, please. So Joey, Sky, and Nikki, you guys are on the bottom three this evening. And unfortunately, Sky, your time on the shooting range has come to an end. We want to thank you so much for being here. You have a good eye, and we hope you'll continue doing the challenges, pushing yourself, and learning so that you can come back next year and kick everyone else's butts. Judges, do you have any particular parting advice for Sky?
Don't stop.
I have something for Sky, and that is, I just made some notes here earlier that she's using natural light. One of the ways you can get that really nice directional light in your home, if you don't have modifiers, is just go into a dark room, and if you've got dark curtains, close them, get the model close to the window, and then just open them slightly to allow that nice little bit of edge lighting to come in, or that little bit of, you know, lighting to come in and give you that really narrow control that you would normally have strip lighting for. The rest of the room will be dark, so the background will be dark, but just, you can really just control the lighting just with really, really simple, just curtains. Or what I have is 2 4-foot by 8-foot black foam core sheets that I tape together and make a V flat, and place your model inside, and then slowly have them come out a little bit. So you just get enough light to come on them, but you still have a black background. And that you can do in natural light without any artificial light at all, and you have tremendous control.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite DIY hack for V flats is fridge boxes, and then you just spray paint them.
Yeah, I've seen many different ways that a V flat can be made on the cheap. So
100%, yeah.
Yeah. One for
I mean,
us. Oh, go ahead.
If I had any parting advice, it's just like, keep shooting, man. Like, this is one of those things that, like, it's not like medicine or law. We can practice this in our basement. No one's going to put us in jail. You know, you just like keep at this, right? Like, you know, keep doing it. Like, you have a good eye, you've got good taste, like you have a good eye for detail, and just like keep at it, man. Like, this is an hours in thing and you'll only get better. So.
Thank you, Renee. Sky, do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Sorry, there's a lot of noise going on.
That's okay. Most of us have families.
No, actually, to be honest, after seeing everybody else's work, I was like, dang, like those are like almost spot on. And Kayla using the exact same model, I was like, oh my god.
Oh no!
I don't really. I don't know. I'm not like.
No.
I don't want to. Sorry, it is so loud. I'm not like. Not sad or like anything like that. Like I love everybody else's work, and I'm really excited to be able to now. Tomorrow we can show people pictures.
Yeah, you can show them on your own personal page. On Friday, we'll do the fan favorites where you everybody's images will be in there, and then you can also put your like back behind the scenes can go underneath your image, so that you know, people can see where your thought process was on that.
Yeah, I'm just excited to show off everybody else's and show the comparisons. They're so awesome.
Yeah, everybody did a wonderful job this week. We're Hope and I are really proud of you guys. So thank you, Sky, so much for being here with us, and we hope to see you around, you know, the Discord, and maybe on Wednesday nights you can come back and visit us and see what everybody's still doing, and possibly still keep learning. Yeah, and if you ever have any questions, you can always just drop a line to Hope and I, and we can answer them for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now let's have a look at this week's Recreate a Renee Robyn top 3. Can you? Thank you. So Kayla, Virginia, and Jean-Francois. In third place, Jean-Francois, you brought yourself up from last week. You were bottom 3 last week. This week, you're top 3. So good job this week. Kayla, you were in the top 3 last week, top 3 again this week. You're number 2. And Virginia, that means that you've won for the 2nd straight week. Congratulations. Way to go. So do any judges have anything to say about our winner?
Congratulations with this image. When I saw it, I was pretty impressed. It was almost exactly a good representation of Renee's image. So that means you have a very good creative as well as technical thinking brain there to do this. I was really impressed.
And Hope, if I'm not correct, please tell me, but the difference between points for Virginia and Kayla was 3 points.
3 points.
3 points this week. So very, very close
You
this
guys
week.
were tied for rank, and it came down to technical. If don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure you guys were tied for rank, and it came down to technical.
Wow.
Yeah. So congratulations, Virginia. You get that 3-pack of oh my God, I've already forgot it. Renee, what is she getting?
Stock.
Yeah, so 3 different packs of stock. So just hit me up, and you can pick 3 from the shop, and I'll send them over to you. So
Amazing. Got any Viking backgrounds? Because my model, her and her husband love Vikings. So if got something that might go Viking, that would be amazing.
I don't know if I have anything in the store on Vikings, but I can tell you where to get them, though. A really good place to get really good Viking stock. So
okay.
And yeah, if anybody here, like present and past contestants, if you ever have questions about anything, just hit me up on social media. I try to be pretty responsive. So happy.
Yeah, Renee's pretty awesome.
I try.
Okay, so just for fun, Hope misunderstood the assignment and she actually recreated the Renee Robyn. So yeah, that one's just for you.
You're such a troll. It's fucking amazing. Oh my God.
I think she did a pretty good job.
I have to admit, I'm impressed.
And then we have one last gift for everyone from Shooter Matt, who wanted to pay homage to season 1's Spamhenge by enhancing his own Renee Robyn creation to make it more memorable. There you go. Good job, Matt. Again, Hope loves spam. All right, so
Spamhenge. How do you not love the Spamhenge?
So I'm sure our panel judges are curious to know what next week's challenge is. So let's watch the video.
Welcome to week 3 Shooting Range Challengers. Congratulations for making it this far. My name is Curtis Jones. I'm an outdoor landscape travel photographer. I'm from Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. And this week, what we want you guys to do is to find your longest underwear, put it on 3 times, big puffy jacket, get outside. And this week's challenge is all about going out, exploring as far as you want, as close to home as you want, backyard, a park, doesn't matter. And I want you to shoot simple, minimalist images. It's all about just finding interesting subjects and simplifying the scene, decluttering the scene, eliminating distractions in any way, shape, or form that you can, and really stripping it down to its most compelling storytelling elements. So a great way to approach this challenge is to just head outside, go for a walk, spend some time in your backyard, bundle up, grab your camera, and just take your time and notice what kind of pulls you. What are you drawn towards? It could be a play of light, a shape, a color. It could be a specific subject that if it was in a better condition or environment, might make a really great image. And what I want you to do then is to spend some time with those subjects, what you've noticed, and really try to strip down to just that thing that hooked you, that thing that made you stop and notice, that thing that kind of punched you in the gut a little bit and spoke to you. There's a bunch of different ways that we can accomplish that. You can use depth of field, you can change your angle and your perspective, but once you have that hook, it's all about honing in on it. So I want you to get high, get low, shoot it from all different angles, 360 degrees. Even to the point where maybe visiting the same thing more than once over the course of the week, if the weather conditions or the light is better. I mean, if it's better light at sunrise, shoot it at sunrise. If it's better midday, shoot at midday to create that simplified image. Play with the forecast. If you have fog or overcast days or snow coming in, maybe go out and find something that you think would look great, but the background's too distracting or cluttered as is in bright bluebird skies. And wait for that fog, wait for that snow, and just watch how that can like really simplify your scene and enhance and bring all the attention forward to your subject. Do the little edge patrol, when you're looking through your lens, make sure there isn't a fence or a road sign or somebody's dog walking through the back of the shot. Unless it actually helps the image, I want you guys to strip everything out that you can to the point where it's essentially just the most compelling pieces, the strongest storytelling elements. I'll wait for that car to go. Hi, Raven. At face value, these simple minimalist images may look like there isn't much technically going on, but what you're gonna notice is that once you start doing this challenge and shooting this way, that technique actually does play quite a bit into this. So I want you guys to think a lot about the lens that you're gonna use, how you're gonna frame your subject, the background, what you choose to include and exclude in the foreground, and really how you use what is available on site and in camera to bring that subject to the foreground. What we're trying to create here are images where the viewer looks at it and it is without a doubt, the viewer knows exactly what it is you want them to see, and that image has story and has impact. Shooting this way has the potential to create very powerful, very strong, clean images that have a lot of emotion, a lot of heart. Okay, friends, you have until January 23rd, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to get all your lovely images into us. Then on January 26th, we're going to be going on Zoom, talking about all your great images, discussing what you guys came up with. And I can't wait to see what you do come up with and to see you guys all again. So good luck, get outside, stay warm, be safe, and keep it simple.
All right, so that's it for this week, folks. Thank you again for everyone for being here. Congratulations again to Virginia, who will be receiving the 3-pack of Renee Robyn custom stock packs. And to Sky, please stick around. We'll miss seeing you in Discord, and we want to make sure that you're playing along. So see you next week for Keep It Simple Shooters with our guest judge, Curtis Jones. Bye.
Bye.